Hello everyone. I hope the week has been going well for all of you, and yeah, I hope the start of the assignment is going well as too. So I'm gonna explain a few things concerning the part two. So I'm just gonna show it again. This is what I want for part two. Now, some things you need to know about this. Well, I'm gonna break it down first. So we've got these wind slashes over there, and then um, we have these meshes over here. They're kind of like more wind slashes, but they're actually there to complement the bigger mesh, this one. So if you combine them both together, you get something like this. Now, as you can see, it looks kind of wrong because those slashes, as you can see from the particle system over here, they're behind the how did I call it, the dark center emitter, and this is why I created a second one that is always on top. Uh, I'm not seeing much of a difference. Oh yeah, no, I do see a difference. It is there. Yeah. All right, so there's this, and then I simply have some bigger ones that are always on top, and all of this combined gives gives this over here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to show you is about that dark center emitter. So this one over here. As you can see, it's a mesh. It has some texture scrolling through it. The edges, they're fading out. It's fading out towards the edges. I'm gonna show you how I did it in 3ds. So it's pretty simple. The UVs are sort of spinning around like this. So if I simply move the UVs left and right, you can see the kind of motion it has. So when you create your material, it's as simple as giving it a panner. There's other things though. Let me just check if I actually gave this some vertex alpha. Why am I not seeing anything? Okay, so alpha is always at 100. Let me check the other settings. So these are the UVs. Do I have some UV2? Alright, yep, I do have UV2. So this is something, I don't remember if I showed you guys how these work. I'm not sure why everything is selected. I think it's because of this. There it is. Alright. So as you can see, there are two sets of UVs. One of those sets is a simple projection from the side that is going, yeah, a simple projection from the side, and everything is scaled to fit a perfect square like this. Um, it's possible to use two different sets of UVs in Unreal. I'm going to show you immediately how this can be done. And something else that the mesh is using is also some offset. As you can see, the edge is kind of wobbly. So as the texture is spinning through it, it's also pushing the vertices towards the normal of the mesh. So it's as simple as multiplying a number that will be multiplying the texture that will create this with the normal of the mesh, and then you multiply this by some number that you can boost however you want, and you plug this in vertex offset. So I'm just gonna create a new material, call it M, whoops, M underscore test. And I'm simply going to drag the mesh directly in here. Alright, so some techniques that the tornado is using is Fresnel. As you remember, Fresnel is when you have when the face of the mesh is facing away from the cam, it becomes -1. So anything facing us directly is returns a value of 1, so it's opaque. Anything facing away from the cam is -1, and anything facing from the horizontally, like on the side of the cam, is 0. So I'm gonna show you a quick example. Just get a Fresnel over here. I'm gonna set this mesh to opaque. Yeah, opaque is okay, just for the sake of it, but eventually it's gonna have to be translucent. But if I simply plug this in my base color, I should have something that is white towards the center and black towards the edges. I might have to tweak some settings. Okay, I'm getting the opposite actually. So as you can see, by default, this node has a value, an exponent of 5. I like to put it back down to 1 and base reflect whatever that is. I've never used that. I always put this back to 0. And now what I want to do is 1 minus this thing. Just going to set myself busy on Discord. Just quit it. Alright, so if I want, well, I'm just gonna save this for now, so the 1 minus is not plugged, but you'll see that with the exponent being smaller, it's 1 instead of 5, it fades more gradually now. And if I plug the 1 minus, it's going to have the opposite effect. It's going to be white over here, and it's going to become black on the edges. Yeah, just like that. And of course, if I use exactly this on the opacity instead, and I'm gonna give simple white color to the emissive over there. Alright, so now I get something that fades towards the edge, but it's not quite fading enough, so I can simply give a power node and put a parameter, a number that I can change. So right now it's set to 1. Well, if you don't plug any power at all, it's the equivalent of powering by 1. So I'm gonna try to power it by 2. And of course, after that, I'll be able to simply tweak that number from here. So this is with a value of 2. This was with a value of 1. And I can simply tweak it like this. As you can see, you get this sort of ghosty effect on the edges. I like 2.5. So yeah, so this is it for the Fresnel. Now the other thing I want to show you guys is those UV things. It's using 2 different UV sets. So it's very simple. If I take a texture from here, which one would be good? I'm gonna get this simple noise over here. Or you know what? No, this gradient is gonna be the perfect example. All right. So by default, if I don't plug anything, it's using the texture coordinates with a tiling of 1, 1, and it uses the first set of UVs. So I'm using this gradient over there, and if I move around the mesh, well, maybe maybe I should actually I should remove the opacity over there. I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna put some text chords. I'm gonna make it actually tile 1 by 4. It's gonna be easier to spot because right now it's sort of the texture is sort of wrapping around, and as you could see from the 3ds scene, the first UV set doesn't cover the entire range, so you only see that the texture, like the white part of the texture, is over here, and then there's you lose a lot of details because the whole thing is not scaled to fit the entire spot. But now, okay, here it is. So this is the result with the first UV set, and if I want to change the UV set to use the second one, it's very simple. I just click on my text chord over here and coordinate index. The first one is 0, so if I want the second one, I simply type 1. Now if I save, the texture is going to use this UV set that we see over here, this one. There you go. So what is this for? It's pretty simple. If I bring this back to 1, 1, I'm simply gonna get a gradient that goes from black to white to black, which can be used in conjunction with the Fresnel for the alpha. And then I can simply get another texture node. I should actually replace this with this one. And then I can simply get another texture node. Well, you know what? I'm gonna get this one again. And I'm gonna copy exactly all of this. But this one is set to 1. This one I'll put it back to 0 over here. So now you have one texture that is using one set, a texture that is using another set, and you can multiply both of them together. and you get a blend between both of them. Whoops. So as you can see, you have that spiral over here. It's going up, but as it goes down, it fades completely black. Now, using this technique, you can simply, oops, just put this back here. So using this technique, you can simply switch this texture for a noise. I don't know, like this one maybe. And then you can put a panner in there. Pan this, plug it here. Now we need a speed. So let's give it a speed of, I don't know, 1. And let's simply multiply all this with our Fresnel alpha over there. Click save. And we're gonna have pretty much the whole job done. All that's going to be needed to keep doing is actually plugging this into the opacity, because you want it in the opacity instead. There you go, you get this type of effect over here. So obviously you're gonna have to work on choosing the proper tiling for the texture. You're gonna have, like I said earlier, you can simply multiply all of that stuff by vertex normal, and then you plug this here, and you're gonna get the mesh that wobbles on the edges. But if the effect is not strong enough, you can simply multiply this by something bigger, like 50 or 500, I don't know, whatever. It's gonna be up to you to figure out the numbers. And now if I save this while it's actually plugged in the opacity, you get this. So obviously right now the values are way too faded, so you're gonna have to boost the values. But I think it's going to be simple from there to actually complete this. So that will be it for the explanation for that mesh, and I will give you more instructions in another video.